Man, the Everglades. We were down there again this weekend and we had a ball. We absolutely tore the fish up. Uh, Conditions were less than ideal. Much of the state of Florida was covered over in overcast weather, storms, rain. It was very windy, especially in the mornings. The afternoons turned out beautiful. But man, we had a great time. Saturday morning, as we're getting up, Sass and I are going in our boat, John and two boys going in his boat. And we just talking, and we just decided, you know what? Let's just go fish. Let's go find water that we've never fished before. It was too windy to run to the beaches and go catch bait or run offshore and catch bait. Heck, you couldn't even run out offshore to be able to run down, as far down as we like to go. When we're headed out of Chokoloskee, it would have beat you up, that wind coming out of the west. So we just went in the back country into one of those main rivers, relied on our electronics, found some, little creeks where the water was flowing out, pulled into one. John stopped on a point, and him and the boys and Sassy and I went on back up in that creek a little bit, and we found a little tributary creek. We were studying that Florida Marine Tracks, and found a little oyster bar that was, three-quarters of the way out on this tributary creek. And as that water was dumping out of there, it was forcing everything into this mangrove point that had a deep hole. And man, I cast in there the first time with for her, and threw it in there. And that bait, as soon as it hit the water, it was done. And it was like that a few other casts. Got on the radio, called John up, and John comes there and brings them. And we sat side by side, and for hours we caught snapper, Goliath grouper, all kinds of fish, just right there, just the two of us, over and over again. What that day forced us to do is to check new water, stuff we had never fished before, which was fun. That was, most of the time when we go down there, ahead of time what spots you're going to. You're going to go catch bait here, then you're going to hit this spot and this spot and that spot, because you've studied the tides all day long or all week long. You know what you're going to do. And actually, some of those times, especially for me, one of my downfalls is that I go fish the same spots every single time. And even if the conditions aren't quite ideal, I'll fish them anyhow and waste time and have less than stellar results. And that's on me, because I fished those things because of what I've done in the past. You know, I say that because it hit me this weekend as I was thinking on it, that one of the things that I've said for years that's a faith blocker in our lives, something that blocks our faith, is familiarity. Being used to how God's answered a prayer of ours in the past or relieved us of a situation. We all have those things that come up in our lives over and over again, time and time, and He brings us to them, and we expect Him just to answer them. I'm 51 years old, and He has, been so faithful to me, and every time, something, you know, comes up, even if it's repetitive, He's always been faithful to answer it and provide for me, and always been for my good. Yet sometimes, being so familiar with how He's done it in the past, I expect Him to do it again. So I pray that way. I expect that way. And you know what? It leads to frustration. Isaiah 55 tells us that His ways are higher than our ways. I call that the trump card, if you will. When you remember playing trump back in the day, that was, God, when we're used to saying, praying to God, and God answer it this way or that, God will say, boom, now throw that trump card down on us and say, I'm not doing it that way. How would it build my character if every time He answered things the same way? It really wouldn't after a while. I'm numb to it. But because He is God, because He loves me so much, He brings me to situations, He brings you to situations. And if we just place our faith in Him and realize that He's going to answer it and it's going to be for our good, we're in a win-win situation. If He answers it our way, good, we win. If He doesn't, good, we win, because it's going to be even better than we thought or hoped for. That's God. So those fish, when they're out there, they have to adapt to whatever conditions they're given. They have to adapt to that tide. They have to adapt to the wind. All of those things, that's their survival. They're in that environment. They're in the water. And for me to try to go in there and catch them however I think they should be or where they are, a lot of times that's pretty discouraging. I can promise you that when we let go of Familiarity. We can expect God to answer, and we can believe, and that's one of the keys to unlocking our faith is our belief when we pray, and belief, and it changes our attitude and renews our mind. So we can expecting to, but when we expecting to do it the same way as He's always done, it can be pretty frustrating, and in the long run, it can actually block our faith. It can limit us.